What if I told you that one of the most unassuming pennies ever struck, one you've probably held, spent, or ignored, has been whispered about in auction rooms with price tags climbing into the hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars? Not a gold coin, not a colonial relic, a penny from 1980. No mint mark, ordinary at first glance, explosive when you know what to look for, because sometimes the greatest fortunes don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. Picture this: a coffee can in a basement, a jar on a dresser, a handful of change pulled from your pocket at the end of a long day. Somewhere in that mix could be a 1980 Lincoln cent that looks just like every other brown penny ever made, until it doesn't. Until one microscopic detail flips the story from spare change to life-changing discovery. This isn't hype. This is the strange, uncomfortable truth about the 1980 no mint mark Lincoln cent, and it begins with a misunderstanding that has fooled millions of people. That here's the first twist. A 1980 penny with no mint mark is supposed to exist. That alone isn't rare. In 1980, the Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark on cents. Billions were struck. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. Why are collectors whispering? Why have reported sales soared as high as $844,000 for top-condition examples? And why do some experts quietly admit that certain specimens could, under the right circumstances, command prices that brush against 7 figures? Because the real story isn't about the date or the missing letter. It's about what went wrong. In 1980, the U.S. Mint was in transition. Copper prices were rising. Experiments were underway. New processes, new pressures. And when systems change, mistakes happen. Big ones, costly ones. The kind that slip past inspectors and land in circulation, unnoticed, waiting for the right pair of eyes decades later. Some 1980 Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong metal entirely. Bronze when they shouldn't be. Or experimental planchets never meant for public release. Others show dramatic doubled dies, letters and numbers that appear to vibrate, split, or echo under magnification. Liberty with a ghost. In God we trust with a shadow. The date itself trembling, as if the coin couldn't decide which reality it belonged in. And then there are the surface anomalies. Improper annealing. Struck through errors. Off-center strikes, so bold they look fake. Except they aren't. Here's the uncomfortable question. How many of these passed through everyday hands before anyone noticed? Most people don't look at pennies. They don't tilt them under light. They don't weigh them to the 10th of a gram. They don't question why one feels just a little different than the others. But collectors do. And when they started finding these anomalies on 1980 no mint mark cents, the narrative cracked open. Because condition changed everything. A heavily worn error might be interesting. A curiosity. A few $100s, maybe a few thousand. But a pristine example? Full original luster. Razor-sharp strike. No fingerprints. No scratches. No cleaning. Certified by a top grading service at the highest levels? That's where the room goes quiet. One such coin, reported in elite numismatic circles, reached an eye-watering $844,000 in a private sale after fierce competition. Not because it was old, not because it was gold, but because it was perfect and profoundly wrong in all the right ways. And here's the cliffhanger most people never see coming. The majority of 1980 pennies were saved, hoarded, stored away in rolls and bags when copper prices surged and rumors spread that cents would change forever. Millions of people pulled them aside just in case. Which means the supply is still out there, but the clock is ticking. Every year, more coins are damaged by improper storage, cleaned by well-meaning hands, lost to corrosion. The number of truly top-condition survivors shrinks silently, relentlessly. Scarcity isn't just about how many were made. It's about how many remain untouched. And that's why the stakes keep rising. Collectors don't just hunt dates anymore. They hunt perfection married to chaos. A flawless coin born from a flawed moment at the mint. A contradiction. A story frozen in copper. Imagine opening a roll you've had for decades. The smell of old paper. The soft clink of coins. And there it is. A 1980 Lincoln cent that looks sharper, heavier, different. Under a loop, the doubling jumps out. The metal color doesn't match expectations. Your pulse changes. You ask yourself the question that changes everything. What if this is one of them? Because the leap from pocket change to proven rarity doesn't require luck alone. It requires attention, curiosity, the courage to question what everyone else dismisses. And here's the revelation that separates dreamers from winners. The people who found these coins didn't set out to get rich. They set out to look closer. They didn't assume. They verified. They weighed. They compared. They sent coins in for authentication when doubt whispered, probably nothing. That whisper has cost people fortunes. The 1980 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't a guarantee. It's a gateway, a reminder that value hides where certainty lives, that the ordinary becomes extraordinary when you understand the details others ignore. And yes, claims of million-dollar valuations hinge on extreme circumstances, rare error combinations, museum-level preservation, documented provenance. But every legendary coin started as a maybe.as, a what-if.as, a penny someone almost spent as. Oh, here's the final turn of the knife. The part that keeps collectors awake at night. You don't need a metal detector. You don't need an inheritance. You don't need insider connections. You need a moment, a coin, and the willingness to look twice. Because somewhere in America right now, a 1980 no mint mark Lincoln cent is sitting in silence, waiting for someone to notice the flaw that makes it priceless. And the only real tragedy is walking past it without ever knowing what it could have been. So the next time you hear that soft rattle of change, don't rush. Don't assume. History doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of your pocket.
What if I told you that a penny you've probably ignored your entire life could be worth more than your house, a broken bar more than your retirement, a broken bar maybe even more than everything you own right now combined? Not a gold coin, not an ancient relic, a plain, brown Lincoln cent, dated 1973, no mint mark, the kind that blends into loose change so perfectly it disappears. And yet, under the right circumstances, this ordinary-looking coin has been linked to values whispered in the millions and reported sales soaring as high as $844,000. A single cent, one quiet year, one shocking possibility. Here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. Millions of these coins were struck. They passed through gas stations, grocery stores, jukeboxes, and coffee cans. Most are worth exactly 1 cent, but a microscopic fraction are not. And those few are the reason collectors lose sleep, why dealers lean forward when they hear 1973, and why someone, somewhere, checked their change one night and realized their life had just split into before and after. The story begins in Philadelphia. In 1973, the U.S. Mint was under pressure. Copper prices were volatile, equipment was aging, quality control wasn't what people imagine today. Coins were struck fast, hard, and in staggering quantities. Philadelphia cents carried no mint mark, just Lincoln's profile and that familiar date. Nothing flashy, nothing suspicious. Which is exactly why the most dangerous coins are the ones that look the most normal. Ask yourself this: if a once-in-a-generation error slipped through, would you even notice? Here's where the tension creeps in. Some 1973 no mint mark Lincoln cents were struck with errors so subtle they hid in plain sight for decades. Double dies so slight they reveal themselves only under the right light. Off-metal strikes that shouldn't exist at all. Transitional anomalies tied to experimental plan case and misfeeds. Coins that technically should never have left the mint. And yet, they did. One coin, one mistake, one escape. Collectors began whispering about them years later. At first, dismissed as exaggeration. Then a certified example surfaced. Then another. Then auction prices started climbing, quietly at first. 10,000, 50,000, 6 figures. And then came the headline that made everyone stop scrolling. A reported top-condition sale approaching $844,000. Not for gold, not for silver. For a 1973 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, preserved in near-perfect condition. Authenticated as an extreme error survivor. Suddenly, the impossible felt possible. But here's the twist: that sale wasn't just about condition. It wasn't just about rarity. It was about the convergence of factors that turn a coin into a legend. Strike quality, error type, eye appeal, provenance, timing, the kind of coin that appears once in a generation and then vanishes into a private collection. The kind that makes experts say, "I may never see another one like this again." And that raises an uncomfortable question. If one exists a broken bar, could there be more? The answer is what keeps people checking their pockets. Some of the most talked about 1973 no-mint mark cents show dramatic doubling in Lincoln's profile and inscriptions. Not the sloppy machine doubling that kills value, but true hub doubling, where the design itself was impressed twice at slightly different angles. When you see it clearly, it's unmistakable. Lincoln's eye seems to split, letters thicken and separate. It looks almost alive, like the coin is vibrating. Others tell an even stranger story. Wrong metal strikes. Plan case that don't match official records. We're talking about cents that appear lighter, heavier, or visually off in a way that triggers alarm bells for seasoned graders. These are the coins that spark debates, forensic testing, and sometimes years of authentication before a verdict is reached. And then there's condition. This is where dreams turn into math. A worn error is interesting. A pristine one is explosive. A 1973 no-mint mark cent struck in error and preserved in top condition is the perfect storm. That's where values leap from thousands to six-figure as a broken bar, and where, in the most extreme and reported cases, speculation pushes into seven figures. Millions. Let that sit for a second. 1 cent, 1 year, one overlooked detail, and suddenly you're talking about life-changing money. But here's the cruel irony. Most people who've held these coins never knew. They spent them, tossed them, let them corrode in jars. The difference between a fortune and nothing often comes down to awareness, knowing what to look for, knowing when not to assume it's just a penny. Think about how many times you've seen a 1973 cent, how many times you didn't look twice. This is where urgency enters the room, because the window isn't infinite. As coins circulate, they wear. As stories spread, the best examples get locked away. As collectors age, estates sell, and hidden pieces re-enter the market. Every year, the odds shift, either in your favor or a broken bar or against you, and the market doesn't wait. High-end Lincoln cent collectors are relentless. When something special appears, competition gets fierce, bidding wars erupt, prices jump in minutes, and once a record sale hits the headlines, everything changes. Suddenly, a date that was ignored becomes hunted. Suddenly, people start checking rolls, drawers, inherited collections. Suddenly, that 1973 cent isn't invisible anymore. This is the moment in the story where someone, somewhere, leans closer to their screen. Because the truth is uncomfortable and exhilarating at the same time. The coin that could change your life won't announce itself. It won't sparkle. It won't feel heavier in your hand. It will look ordinary, boring, exactly like the ones you've already dismissed. Until you don't. Until you tilt it just right. Until a letter doubles. Until the weight is off by a fraction. Until a professional grader confirms what your gut already knew. And when that happens, the world rearranges itself. The reason this story matters isn't because everyone will find a six-figure penny. Most won't. The reason it matters is because some already have a broken bar and didn't know it yet. Because history proves that the rarest coins are often discovered long after they were minted. Because every major find starts with someone curious enough to look again. So the next time you see a 1973 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, don't rush past it. Don't assume. Don't spend it without a second thought. Ask the dangerous question. What if this is the one? Because somewhere out there, a cent struck more than 50 years ago is still hiding, waiting, silent, ordinary, and worth more than anyone ever imagined. The only question left is simple. Will you be the person who finally notices? Imagine holding a coin in your hand that, at first glance, seems ordinary, so ordinary, in fact, that millions of Americans have passed it over without a second thought. A Lincoln cent, copper-toned, small, familiar, yet, hidden within its unassuming surface lies a secret so shocking, so rare, that collectors have spent decades hunting it, and some have walked away with fortunes that most of us can only dream of. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most mysterious and lucrative coins in American numismatic history, the 1978 Lincoln cent. But be real, what you're about to discover could change the way you look at every penny in your pocket. The story begins with a simple error, a mint mark, a tiny letter, almost invisible to the casual eye. For the 1978 Lincoln cent, This mint mark is the difference between a coin worth a mere few cents and one that could be valued in the tens of thousands or even millions if it's in perfect condition. But not just any mint mark error qualifies. This is the stuff of legends. Subtle doubling, off-center strikes, double die varieties. These anomalies are so rare that they've been whispered about in numismatic circles for decades. Could one of these coins be sitting quietly in your change jar, your wallet, or tucked away in an old collection, waiting to reveal its secret? Let's pause for a moment and consider the stakes. In the world of coin collecting, errors like this are golden tickets. In fact, the 1978 Lincoln cent has made headlines for commanding jaw-dropping sums at auction. We're not talking hundreds, or even tens of thousands. We're talking eye-popping numbers or values that stretch into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in the rarest, most pristine cases, even surpassing the $800,000 mark. Imagine that. One small, seemingly ordinary penny, capable of changing the course of a lifetime. But how does a simple penny achieve such staggering worth? The answer lies in its imperfections. Numismatists are those who study coins and know that the tiniest anomaly can create the rarest of treasures. With the 1978 Lincoln cent, collectors have reported double die errors on the obverse, doubling on the mint mark, and even peculiar die cracks that make each coin strikingly unique. And here's the kicker: the majority of those coins were never intended to have these flaws. They were mistakes, born of human error, mechanical misalignment, or even sheer chance. Every flawed coin carries a story, a narrative of accident and destiny intertwined, and every collector dreams of being the one to uncover it. Now, picture the thrill of discovery. A coin slides from your pocket, from a dusty jar, or from a drawer of forgotten treasures, and something about it feels a broken bar different. Maybe the mint mark looks bolder. Maybe there's an unusual line, a strange doubling, a quirk that stops you mid-breath. Your heart pounds as you realize that this could be more than just pocket change. It could be the coin that turns your world upside down. But there's a catch. Identifying these errors requires sharp eyes, patience, and a deep understanding of the subtle variations that distinguish the common from the extraordinary. You might be wondering, could it really be that valuable? Is the hype real? Consider this. Top condition 1978 Lincoln cents have been reported selling for as much as $844,000. That's right, nearly $1 million for a coin that most people would casually toss into a jar of loose change. It's an almost unbelievable truth, yet it's verified by auction records, collector testimonies, and market trends that span decades. And history tells us something even more tantalizing: these coins are incredibly rare. And every time one appears on the market, it causes a frenzy. Enthusiasts scramble, collectors hold their breath, and fortunes can change overnight. Here's another twist to keep you on the edge of your seat. The 1978 Lincoln cent is part of a larger narrative in the world of error coins. It represents a perfect storm of scarcity, desirability, and historical significance. Not all errors are created equal. Some are minor curiosities. Others, like this Onia, are sought after by collectors worldwide, often disappearing into private collections for decades, only to resurface unexpectedly, sparking media attention and astronomical auction results. One coin, one tiny anomaly, and suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. But perhaps the most intriguing part is the human element. Imagine the person who first noticed a flaw in one of these coins back in the late 1970s. Did they realize the fortune hidden in their hand? Did they hold it with reverent anticipation, or did it slip through their fingers, unrecognized, destined to be found by someone else decades later? And now, the same opportunity exists for you. That penny in your jar, that coin you've never thought twice about, could it be the one that commands the kind of attention that transforms lives? The suspense is almost unbearable. And yet, here's the most important secret of all: finding such a coin is only half the journey. The real magic comes from recognition, verification, and timing. Professional grading services can authenticate the mint mark, detect the errors, and assign a grade that reflects the coin's condition and rarity. The difference between a coin graded mint state 65 and mint state 70 can be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every detail matters, every line, every strike, every tiny flaw. This is where dreams meet precision, and fortune rewards the meticulous. So, what does all this mean for you, for the average collector, or even someone who has never given much thought to pennies before today? It means that hidden in the ordinary is the extraordinary. It means that with patience, knowledge, and a keen eye, you could stumble upon a piece of history that has the power to transform your financial future. It's the ultimate treasure hunt, a race against time, scarcity, and chance. And the thrill? Absolutely unparalleled. As we draw closer to the climax of this story, imagine this: you reach into your coin jar, lift a small, unassuming penny, and notice a detail that stops you cold. Your pulse quickens. You take a closer look, and the unmistakable sign appears, a subtle doubling on the 1978 demon mark. Could it really be? You grab a magnifying glass, your hands trembling. The possibilities flood your mind. This single coin could be the one that collectors have spent decades searching for. One coin, potentially worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions, quietly waiting for someone to recognize it. And then it hits you with the realization that the ordinary can hold unimaginable wealth. The coin is no longer just metal and design, it is a key to history, a symbol of rarity, and a tangible connection to a world of collectors willing to pay handsomely for the right find. You feel that surge of urgency, the need to act, to authenticate, to bring your discovery into the light. And in that moment, the world of possibility stretches before you, thrilling, terrifying, and irresistible all at once. So, take a moment and look around. Examine your coins, your change, your old collections. What if one of them holds a secret waiting to be discovered? What if the next 1978 Lincoln cent in your hand is the coin that others dream about but never find? Because in the world of rare coins, fortune favors the curious, the patient, and the bold. And the 1978 Lincoln cent is proof that even the smallest, most overlooked treasures can rewrite destinies. In the end, it's not just about money. It's about discovery, suspense, and the exhilarating possibility that a small, forgotten piece of history could be the gateway to something extraordinary. One coin can hold decades of mystery, moments of thrill, and the promise of life-changing fortune. Could your pennies be hiding the next great numismatic secret? Only time and a keen eye will tell. The question is no longer hypothetical. Are you ready to look a little closer? Are you prepared to see what most others have missed? Because somewhere, waiting in a drawer, a jar, or an old collection, a 1978 Lincoln cent with a hidden error may be waiting to change everything. And when you find it, the story you tell will be as gripping, as suspenseful, and as life-changing as any treasure ever unearthed.